Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Pilate said to Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you say this on your own, or have others told you about me?" Pilate answered, "I am not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests handed you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom does not belong to this world. If my kingdom did belong to this world, my attendants would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not here." So Pilate said to him, "Then you are a king." Jesus answered, "You say I am a king. For this I was born. For this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." The Gospel of the Lord. There's something about the story of an underdog that's very appealing to us. Whether it's the 13 seed team in March Madness beating the 1 seed, or whether it's the little scrappy fighter beating the heavyweight boxer champion, or whether it's just the Cowboys scoring some points in a football game, we love to root for the underdog, to see the unexpected. And this fills our literature as well, whether it be the small little hobbits from the Shire, or whether it be the scrawny little boy who lives under his aunt's and uncle's stairs in 4 Privet Drive. We like to root for the underdog. There's something captivating about it. We enjoy the story. We root for him. We're energized by him. I don't know if it's human nature, just our culture, but there's something there within us that sparks a captivation. And well, there's no greater underdog story than our Lord and King presented today in the Gospel. Here we have Jesus before Pilate. And we have to contextualize this a little bit, because remember that Pilate is the Roman ruler over Judea. He's the big cheese. He is the powerful one. And if you're a Jew, there's nothing worse than being in front of the Roman ruler of Judea. No one wants to be in front of Pilate. A Jew wants anything but to be called in to him. And so here's Jesus, pulled off the streets as a criminal, brought before Pilate, as someone who's convicted, as someone who's a criminal. And if you imagine the scene a little bit, it's also probably Pilate is there in his full Roman garb, trying to exude his power. And it would have been set up in a way that it's a public testimony. So Pilate is probably elevated before Jesus. He's looking down on him as a way to try and intimidate him, as a way to try and exude the power of Rome and of his position. And for most criminals, they would be fearful, groveling at his feet probably. Pilate's expecting that anyone in this position is certainly going to answer his questions, certainly going to bow down to his power, certainly going to try and testify in a way that pleases him so that he will be released, he will be put on his way. But we see the exact opposite happening with Jesus. And I think it even shocks Pilate. Because in this moment where it appears that Jesus is the vulnerable one, where he's the one who's disadvantaged, where he's the one who should be shaking and trembling, Jesus flips the script. He questions Pilate himself. And the dialogue can be a little bit confusing, but Jesus is the one who's now asking Pilate questions. Not fear and trembling, but saying, "Pilate, what does your conscience say that I am? Who do you think that I am?" Or, "Pilate, you think that I am in this position when I don't want to be. But in fact, Pilate, you're the one who should be thinking about your position. Because Christ says to us, 'For this I was born, for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth.'" Christ tells Pilate he's exactly where he wants to be. In this position, Christ is the king. He's where he wants to be. He's the one that is in control, not Pilate. How can this be? Well, as the book of Revelation says, it's because Christ is the firstborn of the dead, the ruler of the kings. And so he has to do the unexpected to meet our expectations. In other words, Christ has to die to rise. He has to go down so that he can come up as king. A real paradox here, one that's hard for us to wrap our minds around. Because we're expecting the king to come with power and might through the slashing of swords. But that's not who our king is here. This is an unexpected situation. In some ways, this is an unexpected feast day, because Christ is our king, but he's showing us a different way. He says, I have come to testify to the truth, not by the expected power and might that kings wield, but by something even greater. He is the Alpha and the Omega, but he shows us his kingship in an unexpected way. The truth. And what is this truth then? Pilate asks that later in this dialogue. And that truth is, of course, the teachings that Christ has been spreading for the past 3 years of his ministry. All of his teachings. And all of the social doctrine and teachings and moral code and commandments that the church passes on to us today. Those things that are truly powerful, but that may not always make us popular. That may not always be easy for us to follow. That may not always show us as powerful in the eyes of the world. But as Christ the King is showing us today, these are the things that will triumph. And so it's our responsibility as his people to then listen to his voice, to follow his ways of truth. And it's not any easier today for us than it was for Pilate. And so we might ask ourselves, would we do better than Pilate in his position? Will we do better than Pilate today? Can we listen to the truths of Christ, the truths that Christ is teaching? That this way to follow him in kingship to glory and resurrection comes through the way of the cross, comes through dying and rising with him. That's hard, but that's the story of the great underdog. That's the story that Christ is. That indeed there is something great here in him, but it comes in an unexpected fashion. It comes in an unexpected way. And we are, of course, with this feast day, marking Christ as King, but then preparing to start a season where we remember that, again, Christ is going to come in an unexpected way. He comes as a baby in the manger. Not what we would anticipate, not what we would necessarily draw out for ourselves, but what meets and feeds the deepest yearnings and longings in our heart. The true King who comes to visit each and every one of us. And so it's up to us to belong to that truth, to listen to his voice, to testify to that truth, to his voice, and prepare for our Lord and King to come in an unexpected way and in an unexpected time.